Are you tired of getting paid on Friday and all that money seems to be gone by Monday? Are you over with checking your bank account repeatedly just to make sure that things are doing okay in there? Are you ready to start putting a dent in your debt for 2024? If you answered yes to any of those questions, I'm going to help you get your money situated in a very easy way so that you can finally have some real breathing room. We're going to look at money in a different way than you have been, and we're going to do some real change for good starting right now. Let's get into it. And we're going to start with everybody's favorite word, budget. And I know, as soon as I say the word budget to my husband, Jason, he makes a face every time. It just sounds stingy, right? Like some antiquated word that our grandmas told us about. You should really learn to budget your money, Missy. But with how things have turned on us since 2020, let's look at budgeting in a new light. Stick with me here. And let's call it what it really is. It's creating, designing, dedicating, mapping, framing, arranging, charting, shaping, formulating, managing, determining, and evaluating. Okay, yes, this sounds like something we want to do, right? I am going to be keeping all of those words in my mind and in yours during this video. We will be evaluating our financial situation, creating and designing something that actually works for us, determining what is important now and in the future, framing and arranging it in a way that makes sense to us so we actually stick with it, mapping and charting where every dollar will be used so that we are able to continue shaping the life we want. And lastly, managing our habits, moving forward so this budget can do its job. And that job is to save our money as much as we possibly can. So let's get into these steps that you can take along with me to save your hard-earned money too. So let's start with creating and designing. Now, the first thing we want to do is stop all of the paperless billing. Hear me out on this one. Now, back in the day, before paperless billing existed, I would get all of my bills in the mail. I would open it. I took the time to really look at it. And I had something tangible to put in my bills folder. And I would also write it down at that time too. I kept track on a calendar. Doing it this way makes us more aware. We will see patterns. We know what to expect. Paperless is an email buried in with all of your other emails. Even if you do open it, you scan it, look for the amount, and click out. Some of them don't even have the amount in the email. You have to click their website, log in, and then you can see the amount. We're not doing that, right, guys? It's just not a good system. I'm going to give you an example. Just a couple months ago, I received a water bill for 6 times the normal amount. It was over $350. The next month's bill was also high at $200. We ended up having some sort of issue outside, and it was a mess. If I was paperless, I don't know how long that would have continued. Now, I know they sell us this as an environmentally friendly alternative, but you guys, they also tell us not to use plastic bags at the grocery store. You know, the place where everything you buy is wrapped in plastic. You being paperless is saving them money, period. I want your focus to be you saving money, determining what's important to you. So let's write everything down first so you know who to go to online and change back to paper billing. Okay, so step 1 is just writing down all of your bills. Just get a piece of paper and a pen and let's start writing down everything that we have to pay. We're going to start with our fixed expenses and we're going to go in order from most important to least important. And the first things that we need to pay are what we call our 4 walls, things that keep us in our home. So I'm going to go ahead and write mine down, and they are rent, electric, water, propane, waste management, and my renter's insurance. This is everything I need to keep my house running. So we've got that started. Yours might be a little different from mine. You might want to add in your taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is our car. Now, I'm assuming most of you have a car payment. I actually do not. My car was paid off this past year. Yay. And I have a little side note for you guys. NerdWallet recommends spending no more than 10% of your take-home pay on your monthly auto loan payment. So if your after-tax pay each month is $3,000, which is equivalent to someone making around $750 a week take-home pay, you can afford a $300 car payment. So I hope you guys are trying to stay within your 10% of your take-home pay on your auto loan payment. That is very, very important. Now, I don't have a car payment, but I do have a car tag, car insurance, and car maintenance. Next on our list would be our living essentials. This is things like groceries, gas, phone, childcare, or maybe you pay child support, life insurance, pet care, Wi-Fi, health insurance, medications, things that we absolutely need to continue to live. Living essentials. My living essentials are okay, so I've written down my groceries, my phone bill, life insurance, Wi-Fi, pest control, pet care, storage, and my medical. Those are all things that I need to pay or have every single month. So go ahead and write whatever yours are on your piece of paper, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is our debt payments. So if you have any credit cards, student loans, or any other kind of personal loans, write them in here. Next section is going to be your savings. Now, if you can, 10 to 15% is recommended. You may have to get rid of some of these debts first, and that's okay. I have something for you I will show you at the end of the video to help you with paying down that debt. So over here, let's go ahead and write our savings. And then down here at the bottom in this teeny tiny little section, we're gonna go ahead and we'll see what's left. And that is gonna go for what we will call the extras. And these are things like subscriptions, cable, gym memberships, beauty appointments, eating out, shopping. Those are considered extras. Now, I do want to talk to you guys about what's called sinking funds. Sinking funds are good for things like taxes, HOA fees, holidays, birthdays, vacations, getting ready for back to school, anything that you know is coming up later and you'd like to be prepared for it. I actually love doing these. You can make long-term ones and short-term ones, and I'm going to give you an example of both. My daughter does a short-term one for her hair appointments. She spends $250 and she goes every 5 weeks. Every 5 weeks when it was time for her appointment, she was upset about the fact that she had to spend $250. So now what she does is she puts aside $50 every pay period for those 5 weeks, and then she's ready for the appointment with her $250. An example of a long-term one is I do my car insurance, I pay annually, and I need $1,200 every May. So I put away $23 a week, and every May I have my $1,200. So sinking funds can really be a lifesaver for those big expenses that we know are coming up. But let's stick with this for now. So now we're gonna take this list and now we're gonna add the numbers in. The easier ones are going to be your fixed bills, and those are the ones that you know the amount almost down to the dollar every month. But those variable expenses, they can be a little trickier, right? So I have a couple suggestions. You could either look at your bank statements for the last couple months and average out the amount, or what I think is an even better way is I use my search button on my online banking. So I'm gonna use groceries because this is a very large variable one for most of us. So I would go to my online banking, and in the search button, I would type Safeway, the name of my store. Maybe you go to Publix, maybe you go to Walmart. Just type in your grocery store name and set the dates for the last 2 to 3 months. And then you're gonna average them out. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. Okay, so say I went to Safeway 6 times in the last 3 months. And the amounts that I spent each time are these different amounts. So what I'm gonna do to find out my average to put on my budget sheet is I'm gonna add up all 6 of these numbers. All 6 of those times total $655.70. Now what I'm gonna do is then I'm going to divide by 6, the amount of numbers I added up, and that gives me an average of $109 each time I go to the grocery store. So if you're not sure what you spend on something like groceries, go ahead and average it out by looking at your typical spending. So I'm gonna go ahead and write in how much I spend each month on these items. Okay, so now we have written down what we spend each month on all of these bills. The next thing you want to do is take the monthly amount and divide it by how many pay periods you have during the month. So if you're weekly, like I am, you're going to divide it by 4. If you get paid bi-weekly, divide the number by 2. And if you're monthly pay, then this is obviously what you need to set aside each time you get paid. So as I said, I get paid weekly, so I'm going to go ahead and divide each of these numbers by 4 and write the amount next to it. Okay, so I have divided each of my monthly bills by 4, and these are the amounts that I need each week to stay on track. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken all of these amounts and I've put them on this budget sheet. This is a freebie for you guys. It is linked below. Go ahead and look down there and click and print a couple of these out for yourself. These are a great tool to stay organized with your budget. So once you've got everything figured out on a scratch piece of paper, now we're ready to get down to business on our budget sheet. And I'm gonna zoom in to show you how I did it. I took everything in order from this is the most important, and then I moved over here and wrote them in order, most important to least important on this side. So we're gonna go ahead and put our income over here. For the week was $2,000. And now we're gonna take every bit of that $2,000 and we're going to give it a job. And this is called a zero-based budget. Now that does not mean you take yourself down to zero every month and spend every bit of your weekly pay. What it means is that you have $0 sitting and waiting to be spent on things that you didn't plan on. This will eliminate what I call willy-nilly spending. This will eliminate getting paid on Friday and realizing on Monday that you spent way too much this past weekend. I think we can all relate to that. So we are going to do the math and see how this pans out. So we've got our calculator over here and we're gonna start with our 2,000. And we're gonna subtract all of these. After all these are paid, I have 1,031 left. So let's go over here. Now I'm down to 735. Let's go to the next section. Now I'm down to 562. And now down here are my extras. I have subscriptions that run me about $88 a month, so $22 a week. And my appointments on average are running me about $53 a week. So let's go ahead and subtract those. And that leaves me with $487. And don't forget down here, I have my savings next because I do have a positive number here. So we're gonna get into that. What if after doing your income minus your expenses, you are in the negative? This is adjustment time. You need to increase your income, lower your expenses, or both. I have a video called Behind on Bills, and I have another video on how to sell your items. I'm going to link both of those at the bottom. So if you find yourself in this situation and you're in the red, maybe those videos could help you get out of that situation. Now, if I were in the negative, right off the top, I already know I would be cutting my subscriptions. I would be cutting out my appointments. And not only that, I could come over here and get rid of this storage unit that I have in Florida once and for all. And I would probably get rid of my pest control and just go to Home Depot and start buying my own stuff. There's always ways that you can find in your budget to cut back on expenses. Now, the other thing you could do is a no spend challenge. And this is where you refuse to spend on anything that is not an absolute necessity. And I do have a no spend challenge tracker. Again, this is a freebie. It's linked below. If you want to try one out, you just mark off the days that you do not spend and you will see your money start to pile up. And I love the saying down here at the bottom, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And doing a no spend challenge will really help you with realizing what you're spending your money on that you probably don't need. So keep this in mind. And let's go ahead and get back to my savings. What I try to do is I try to save 20% of our income, which would be $400. And as you can see, I have $487 left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take $113, and that's gonna go into my savings account, and $300 I'm gonna use to play savings challenges for the week. Savings challenges, if you're not familiar, these are just a really fun way to save money as opposed to just throwing it into the checking account. You can have specific goals for each savings challenge, and it's just, in my opinion, a much better way to save than just throwing it into the savings account. So we're gonna subtract these two things, and I am left with $74. Now what I'm gonna do with this $74 is this is going to be my buffer in my checking account. I'm going to use this for things like eating out, some purchases I might have to make throughout the week. Now remember that your numbers are obviously going to be different from my numbers. Everybody's numbers are different. We all have different expenses, but the idea is the same. You just want to take your income, whatever it is, minus your living expenses for your house, then your car, then your living essentials, savings, and then if you have anything extra, you put it over here for the fun stuff. Now, if you're anything like me and you need to see this visually and be a lot more in control of this money, I do what is called cash stuffing. And you have binders with envelopes that have these categories specifically listed out on the fronts. I actually take the cash out. This is the $2,000, and I have what's called a cash planning sheet. This is also a freebie. This is below for you guys as well if you're interested in the cash envelope method. So I have my weekly amounts here, and then over here I have the denominations and how many of each of those bills I need to pay all of this. This keeps me on track with everything that I need to pay. It keeps me from overspending. It keeps me from forgetting things. It's just been a really good system for me. In fact, this has gotten me completely out of debt just a couple months ago. So I do highly recommend the cash system. I have a video every week where I go through all of my cash binders and I stuff all of my bills, all of my variable expenses. It is all in here. So the next thing that we want to do with the budget is mapping and charting. You want to track all of your spending throughout the week. This is going to help you control the future spending, and you will be able to get your budget more and more accurate as you go. For me, the things that I like to track are groceries, because I have a habit of overspending on my groceries. And maybe even that buffer that you have at the end of the week. Where is it going? You want to have just a piece of paper is fine, and just write down Amazon, out to eat with friends, drinks with friends, whatever it is that you're spending extra on. And at the end of the week, just add it up and make adjustments where you see that maybe you could make some improvements on your spending habits. And the next thing I want to talk about is managing that money. What if you have multiple spenders? How do you keep track? Now, if you have a partner and you're both seriously committed to a budget, my suggestion would be to set a limit for each person for the week and use cash. That way, when your limit is up, your limit is up. No one will be overspending. What if you have a variable income? If you have a variable income, you want to get your baseline amount of pay. Now, I actually have a 3-part series on getting your budget together. I will link those videos down below, and I go into much more detail about how to get your baseline pay. You always want to have your expenses below that baseline. I would even make getting a month ahead a goal if I had a variable income. I have actually been working on getting a month ahead. All of my monthly bills are fully funded at this point, except for my rent, which is obviously my biggest bill, and I'm working on that currently. Okay, what about separate accounts? Don't overwhelm yourself with too many in the beginning. If you are not a fan of the cash method, that is okay. I would suggest 2 checking accounts and 1 savings account. The 2 checking accounts, one would be for bills and one would be for spending. And I wouldn't even have a debit card for the bills account. Now, some banks are even starting to accommodate this method. PNC is one of them. They have an account called the virtual wallet, where you have 3 accounts. They call one the spend account, which is your primary checking account. One is called the reserve account, and this is your secondary account for short-term planning. And then they have your growth account for your long-term savings account. So they've done the work for you, giving you the 2 checking accounts and your savings account. Another option, and this is something that I used to do when I was younger, is I used money orders to pay for everything. Money orders have kind of become something that most people don't even know exist anymore, but they are awesome for if you are trying to get on a budget and stay on a budget. Let's use rent as an example. So every week I would go get a money order with my $875 cash. I would take this in. Walmart has them for 88 cents. You go in, you give them the cash, they give you the money order. When you get the money order, go ahead and write it out so you don't try to cash it in later, who it's for, and put it to the side. That way you're not spending your rent money on anything else. Money orders are 2 parts. The top part is going to be your receipt, so you can keep track of it. You can track them online. This is going to give your checking account a break. You won't see things going in and out of your checking account all the time. Insufficient funds will not be a problem. And I'm going to link an article about money orders from NerdWallet below for you guys. It gives a lot of information on how to use them, where you can get them, the pros and cons, everything about good old money orders. So for all of these things we talked about today, I do have these tools for you. As I mentioned, I have the budget sheet, the cash planning sheet, the no spend challenge, and we have an emergency fund tracker. If you're trying to get ahead and you want to pay off some of that debt, the first step is to get your $1,000 emergency fund ready to go. That way, if anything pops up while you're trying to pay extra on your debt payments, you've got a little bit of a cushion to fall back on for those unexpected expenses. So this is linked down below for you guys too. And once you get your $1,000 emergency fund and you're ready to start paying off the debt, I personally follow Dave Ramsey's baby steps. And once you have your emergency fund, step 2 is to pay off all of your debt except your house using the snowball method. And I have linked below a complete plan, baby steps 1 and 2 booklet for you guys. This is available in my Etsy shop, and it is all of the steps in order to keep you on track with paying off all of your debt once and for all. And now comes the dedicating part. This is where you decide to be dedicated to this budget that you've created. You're gonna start to see yourself gain some traction in no time, you guys. You're gonna reduce your stress levels, and you're just gonna see a huge improvement overall. I am so excited for you, and for continued motivation, hit subscribe and be part of the Hive. I do the actual cash envelope method. I'm a weekly budgeter. And on the other side of Two Sister Bees is my sister April. She does the digital cash method and is a monthly budgeter. Her channel is linked below for you as well. We have something for everyone. In the meantime, if you are thinking about starting the cash envelope system, here's a video showing you how to get started.